The pick for the Detroit Lions and Daniel Jeremiah's mock draft 2 would cause an absolute uproar within the fan base of the Detroit Lions. With the 29th pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select who? Zach Frazier, center, 6'2", 314 pounds out of West Virginia. Would I be opposed to this? No, I wouldn't. But others in the fan base absolutely would. The draft's in Detroit. It's not a sexy pick. It's not a corner. It's not a safety. It's not an edge rusher. It's not a running back. It's not a wide receiver. It's not a quarterback. It's an boring offensive line. But to me, I love having one of the top offensive lines in the league. Just absolutely mauling people. Keeping Jared Goff upright so he can do his thing throwing the ball. Opening holes for David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. That's the number one thing for this offense. If you don't have a solid offensive line, we're not going to have that same offense that we did this year. Keep adding talent to that offense. And the reason why Daniel Jeremiah has the Detroit Lions selecting an offensive lineman, because we have the possibility of losing Graham Glasgow and Jonah Jackson. And I'll have a discussion with somebody in the comment section if they disagree with me on it, but I'm letting Jonah Jackson walk. He was injured too much, and we can spend that money elsewhere on other holes for this team to get better and contend for a Super Bowl. And you do that by drafting offensive linemen to retool that offensive line if someone wants to go. Zach Frazier, according to Daniel Jeremiah, seems like he'd be a Dan Campbell type of guy. He's a 4-time state champion wrestler in high school, only allowed 1 sack as a freshman, only allowed 1 sack as a sophomore, allowed 2 sacks as a junior. But guess what? His senior year, he allowed 0 sacks. I'd take that any day of the week. Anyone that could pass pro and keep Jared Goff upright, I'd be extremely pumped about it. Now let's talk about the strengths of Zach Frazier. He's fires out of his stance, which is good because you can put him right next to Penei Sewell, and that right side's moving, and David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs are right behind it. That's a good strength to have. He's a good run blocker. We already have one of the top running games in the league. He has good patience, and he's a good athlete. Now let's flip it over to some weaknesses for Zach Frazier. He lacks mobility. So I don't know if this really goes hand in hand with him having good athleticism, but if he's a guard, how mobile does he necessarily have to be? Or if his true position is center and he flips out the guard and he can play guard, that's totally cool. He's got to be somewhat mobile and lacks elite arm length for an offensive lineman. I don't know how these stats and measurables add up to scouting a player and how that's going to affect him blocking somebody. So I'm not going to get into all that. But would I be mad about drafting Zach Frazier to this Detroit Lions team? Absolutely not. Now let's talk about the release of Tracey Walker. This is a little bit of a bummer. He was a fan favorite from years upon years. I'm grateful for what Tracey Walker did for this Detroit Lions team. For a while there, he was the only bright spot for the Detroit Lions to watch this team. He was balling out a couple of years ago, tore his Achilles, and he hasn't really been the same since. And then we got Melifonwu playing very good. You got Brian Branch playing good last year, Kirby Joseph. There's really no need. I was kind of hoping we could find a trade market for Tracey Walker to get more picks, but we released him, and that saves us $5.5 million in the cap space. Now let's talk about a player that in free agency that is projected to the Detroit Lions through ESPN, or he could be a possible target for the Detroit Lions, and that would be cornerback Kendall Fuller. He's been around for 8 seasons, but he's not that old. He's only 29 years old. He's won a Super Bowl with Kansas City, not this past year, not the year before that, but all the way back in 2019. That helps for the Detroit Lions, who are trying to go to the Super Bowl this year. He had 2 interceptions last year, 2 fumble recoveries last year, 79 tackles, 16 career interceptions. He's an 8-year vet, like I said, and a contract for him would be looking like 3 years, $42.5 million. That ain't too bad because I'd be coming out to $14.1 million a year to be on the opposite side of Cam Sutton. Would I be opposed to that? No, because then you can put Cam Sutton on the number 2 wide receiver, and he's not getting torched up. But the reason Cam Sutton and Vildor were getting torched up was because we didn't have a defensive end. We got to go get a defensive end in free agency. So I don't know if we're going to go after Kendall Fuller. I'd rather go all in on a premier pass rusher. Let me know what you guys thought about the video down below. Like, comment, subscribe. I really appreciate you guys. One Pride signing out. Peace.